Hello children, welcome to aimsindia's online classes. This is biology session. You are watching ecosystems. Children, in your lower class you have studied about the habitat. What is a habitat? A place where an organism live or survive on its own is called its a habitat. It's a natural habitat. Natural living place is called a habitat. The habitat provide everything to that organism to survive. That's why a habitat of a fish is water, aquatic habitat. The habitat of a rabbit is terrestrial, land. Okay. A rabbit lives in a meadow. Okay. The habitat of a bird, tree. Like that, the entire earth is made up of different habitats. Earth is a big biosphere, is a big habitat for many living organisms. Okay. So in this particular lesson we are going to discuss about the habitats and the ecosystem. Especially ecosystem is the unit of biosphere, and the components of ecosystem in detail we are going to discuss. Are you ready children? Let us proceed. The nature consists of two major components. What are they? The living organisms and the environment. The living organisms of an area on the earth are under the influence of many external factors. They are light, temperature, water, gases, etc. So these external factors constitute the physical environment. The organism and the environment are inseparable and interact with each other. They exist a state of dynamic equilibrium. This is very important term. Okay, between the organism and environment there is a dynamic equilibrium. Okay. So A.G. Stanley in 1935 coined the term ecosystem. The term ecosystem was coined by A.G. Stanley, and even before Tansley, not Stanley, Tansley, different terms were introduced to explain the concept of ecosystem. They are bioconosis. This is the term introduced by Carl Moebius. Microcosm, introduced by S.A. Forbes. Geobioconosis, introduced by Sukachev. Holocoin, introduced by Friedrich. Bioinert body, it was introduced by Warnski. Okay children, these are the some of the terms. Okay, ecosystem, Tansley. Okay, like that, bioconosis, microcosm, geobioconosis, bioinert body. So these are all the typical terms introduced by various ecologists, the person who studies on the ecological concepts. What is ecology actually? Ecology is the branch of biology which deals with the study of living organisms in relation with their environment. Okay children, Let us proceed. Ecosystem was defined as the structural and functional unit of nature, or the structural and functional unit of biosphere, or it is a system of living organisms and their environment which interact with one another and exchange materials. Okay. Ecology or environmental biology is the field that studies this complex set of relationships between the living organisms and their surrounding environment. Okay, it is the relationship between the living organisms and their environment. The scope of this field is very large and covers things like global warming, environmental pollution, plant and animal extinctions, etc. Okay, so this is about the introduction. Now we are entering into the actual topic, ecosystem. What are the components of ecosystem? What is ecosystem? It is a structural and functional unit of nature. What are the components? Every ecosystem has both structure and function. The structural component includes all living organisms and their interrelationships. All living organisms and their interrelationships. The functional component includes the exchange of materials, energy flow, nutrient cycles. What are nutrient cycles? The nutrient cycles include carbon cycle, sulfur cycle, nitrogen cycle, hydrological cycle, water cycle, okay, etc. So the functional components of ecosystem includes exchange of materials, the exchange of materials between the living and non-living, and energy flow among the living things, and nutrient cycle. Nutrient cycles are nothing but exchange of materials only. Okay. Next. So there are two components, structural and functional. The structural components are all living organisms and their interrelationships. You studied in 6th class about food chains, food web, isn't it? The ecosystem has two major components, namely abiotic, non-living component, and biotic, living component. Okay, what are the two major components of ecosystem? Abiotic and biotic. First, let us discuss about abiotic components. Abiotic components means non-living components of ecosystem. These non-living components consist of different materials. What are they? Let us see. The first one, inorganic materials. What are inorganic materials? The different types of inorganic substances like the salts of calcium, magnesium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, okay, are found in a dissolved state in water. So these are all inorganic materials. So thus the pond water itself acts as a weak nutrient mineral solution. A weak nutrient mineral solution because of presence of inorganic salts, inorganic materials. Then what are the organic materials? Organic materials include many biological biomolecules, we can say. Many organic compounds like amino acids, organic acids, humic acids, carbohydrates. These are all found in the mud as well as water, means soil and water. So these are formed from the organic components. They are formed from the living organisms like plants and animal debris. What is the meaning of debris? Wastes. Okay, even the dead plant or dead animal, when it is buried in the soil, they convert into the organic materials, add to the soil. Okay, the humus, if you take humus, the topsoil of the forest, it also containing organic matter. Okay, so next component, that is gases. The important gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are found in a dissolved state in water. Besides the above materials, other abiotic components of pond ecosystem are light, temperature, and the pH of water. Okay. Okay, now abiotic components completed. So let us in the abiotic components, even the light, temperature, and pH also influence the number of living organisms in that particular habitat. So also environmental factors. The light, temperature, they influence the climatic factors. So they are climatic factors. The intensity of light, the temperature. In summer it is very high, in winter it is somewhat low, in rainy season or autumn season somewhat different, isn't it? Then biotic components. Biotic components means living components. The biotic components of a pond ecosystem consist of, so here we are considering particular ecosystem, taking as an example. There are several types of ecosystems are there. Aquatic ecosystems means water, like pond ecosystem, sea ecosystem, river ecosystem. They are all aquatic ecosystems. Non-aquatic ecosystems, they are terrestrial ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, different. Okay, if you consider a pond ecosystem, the biotic components include producers, consumers, and decomposers. Producers, consumers, and decomposers. So general definition, what are producers? Producers means the organisms which prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. They come under producers. All green plants, algae, or some photosynthetic bacteria come under producers. Consumers. Consumers means these are heterotrophic. Producers are autotrophic. Consumers are heterotrophic. Almost all animals, certain fungi come under this category. Then decomposers. Decomposers include those organisms which decompose the organic matter. Okay, so it includes certain bacteria and fungi. Okay, let us study in detail about these biotic components. Producers. Producers are all autotrophic organisms which serve as a source of food for consumers and decomposers also. Okay, all autotrophic organisms which serve as a source of food for consumers are called producers. Simple. The photosynthetic higher plants, algae, photosynthetic and chemosynthetic bacteria come under the category of producers. Okay, so photosynthetic plants, green plants, they produce energy rich carbohydrates by utilizing carbon dioxide, water, with the help of solar energy. Okay, energy from sunlight. Then producers are of two types depending upon their importance. The producers are of two major types. What are they? Macrophytes and microphytes. Macrophytes means large, plants, large plants. Microphytes means small, microscopic plants. They are also called microphytes are also called phytoplankton. Phytoplankton. Example diagrams. So let us discuss about macrophytes. What are macrophytes? Macrophytes are higher plants which are usually large in size, big in size. There are different types of macrophytes, or which include free floating plants, submerged plants in pond ecosystem. Don't forget, we are discussing in the pond ecosystem, not all ecosystems. The macrophytes in pond ecosystem include free floating plants, submerged plants, emergent plants. Okay. So first, free floating plants. Pistia, the plants which float on the surface of water. Okay, the examples are very important. Free floating plants, their structure, and why do they float on the surface. So all those things you will study in the higher class. For your understanding, I am giving a brief explanation. Free floating plants consist of a special tissue called parenchyma, which is filled with air. The tissues inside filled with air, so they float freely on the water. Example: Pistia, Econia, Wolfia, Lemon, Azolla, Salvinia, Spirodella. These are all the examples of free floating plants. Then submerged plants. Submerged plants means the plants which are fixed, which are inside, immersed in the water. Such plants are called submerged hydrophytes or submerged water plants. Okay. Example: Utricularia, it is an insectivorous plant. Hydrilla, Vallisneria, Ceratophyllum, Cara nitella, these two are algae. Otilia, these are all the plants which are submerged. Then emergent plant. Emergent plant means these are usually rooted along the margins of the pond. So marginal plants, they are called marginal plants. Example: Typha, Sagittaria, Ranunculus, Eliocharis, Potamogeton, Marsilia, Trappa, Apanogeton, Nymphia. These are all the examples of emergent plants. Emergent plants means marginal plants of pond. Okay, now the macrophytes completed. Macrophytes means higher plants which are usually big. Now microphytes. Microphytes are also called a phytoplankton. So these are usually microscopic lower life forms. Okay, microscopic, primitive. They become conspicuous and dominant when conditions are favorable. These microphytes become conspicuous and dominant when the conditions are favorable, when plenty of food is available, light is available at that time. So green color of pond water is due to phytoplankton. The phytoplanktonic forms may be floating or suspended in water. Okay, they may be floating or suspended in water. Microphytes examples: filamentous green algae. Example: Spirogyra, Xenma, Ulothrix, Odogonium. These are all algae. Odogonium, Cladophora. And filamentous blue green algae example: filamentous green algae example: Spirogyra, Xenema, Ulothrix, Odogonium, Cladophora. The filamentous blue green algae They are also called cyanobacteria. Example, nostoc. Okay, the microphytes are phytoplankton divided into two categories, filamentous green algae and filamentous blue-green algae. Okay, filamentous blue-green algae include nostoc, oscillatoria, anabina, gliotricha, olympia, and some of these blue-green algae form water blooms. They form the water blooms. Next, unicellular forms. Unicellular forms include desmids like Clostridium, bacteria like Cosmarium, diatoms like Pinularia, motile unicellular forms like Chlamydomonas, non-motile, motile means movable, non-motile unicellular forms like Chlorella. Okay, these are unicellular, they are single. Previously these filamentous algae and the filamentous blue-green algae, they are multicellular. Okay, but this Chlamydomonas is unicellular, motile, and Chlorella is unicellular, non-motile, seen in the ponds. And colonial forms means which live in groups. The colonial forms of a pond ecosystem, okay, include the biotic component include Pandorina, Eudorina, Volvox, and Pediastrum. Okay, generally the biomass of producers is more towards the margins of the pond and gradually decrease towards the center. Similarly, the energy content of the microphytes, it is measured with a device called oxygen bomb calorimeter. Oxygen bomb calorimeter is used to measure the energy content. The energy content is expressed in calories per gram dry weight. Calories per gram dry weight, because we are considering biomass. No, the biomass can be studied, biomass can be measured by using an instrument called oxygen bomb calorimeter. And what are the units of units to express this biomass is calories per gram dry weight. Okay, the biomass of phytoplankton is obtained after a process called centrifugation and expressed as the number per unit area, average biomass per cubic meter water. Okay, so the biomass of phytoplankton is obtained by centrifugation. After that, expressed as a number per unit area, average biomass per cubic meter water. Okay, next come to the consumers, the second important biotic component, consumers. Consumers are heterotrophic higher organisms which depend directly or indirectly on producers. The consumers of a pond may be classified as follows. They are divided into 4 categories. What are they? Primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and the last one, decomposers. Okay, first, primary consumers. What are primary consumers? These are herbivorous animals. They feed on producers directly. In the food chain also, the second category is primary consumers. Okay, herbivorous consumers may be larger or microscopic. Depending on their position in the pond, The primary consumers are further divided into Newston. The first one is Newston. What are Newston? Okay, so we are discussing about consumers. Consumers are categorized into primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and decomposers. So now primary consumers, they are herbivorous. They are herbivorous consumers. These are further divided depending upon the position of them in the pond. The first one is Newston. What is Newston? These are unattached organisms that live at the air-water interface. Air-water interface. They may be floating. If the Newston organisms are floating, they are called epinewstons. Example, water striders are suspended just below the water surface. If the Newston organisms are suspended below the water surface, they are called hyponewston. Hyponewston. Example, diving beetles, some insect larvae. Okay. See, these vocabulary is very important, children. Newston. Further, the Newston means the unattached organisms that live at the surface, air-water interface. Okay. They may be floating. If the Newston, floating Newston, they are called epinewston. If these organisms are below the water surface, then they are called hyponewston. Okay. Newston again divided into epinewston, hyponewston. Okay, children. Let us proceed. Okay, you read the book and clarify the doubts. Okay. Please subscribe our channel Aims Today. Okay. Please press the bell icon for receiving latest updates. Thank you for watching our video.